Hey Logo Geeks, Ian Paget here, and on this week's episode, we're going to be chatting with Will Paterson to find out how he uses YouTube as a logo designer. Before we get into the interview, I do want to give a big shout out to the sponsor of this podcast, FreshBooks. Now, FreshBooks is a cloud accounting software that makes it really easy to create and send professional looking invoices in seconds. To try it out for yourself with a free, unrestricted 30-day trial, all you need to do is visit freshbooks.com/Logo Geek and be sure to enter Logo Geek in the How Did You Hear About Us section. This week, I'm chatting with Will Paterson, a hugely successful graphic designer who specializes in logo design and hand lettering. But he's best known for his popular YouTube channel, which has over 234,000 subscribers, which is insane. Now, through his YouTube channel, Will has been consistently publishing video content every week, and he has some fantastic videos and tutorials on logo design and hand lettering, so I highly recommend checking those out. In this interview, we discussed the tools and processes he uses to create his video content. We also deep dive into his logo design and hand lettering processes, as well as learning how he became a hugely successful designer despite failing at school. This is a value-packed interview, so I hope that you'll get a lot out of it. So we start the interview discussing why Will started his YouTube channel. So let's get into this. Here's Will Paterson.
When I was in school, I had a friend called Jay who had a YouTube channel, and he basically did like GFX, so like proper gamer stuff, and he sort of sparked my passion into creativity because we sort of enjoyed the same things. We sort of failed school together as well, and he did Photoshop stuff, and he was like designing Syndicate's backgrounds and Syndicate's thumbnails and loads of proper gamer YouTubers at the time. And I just sort of thought it was really cool. And the way that I started my YouTube channel wasn't based around that, but it was based on the knowledge that anyone can grow a YouTube channel. Like, it's not, you don't have to be cool at school or the bee's knees to actually get people to follow you. So I just, from college, when I quit college, basically learning how to become a secretary, I decided that when I was going to learn design by myself, if I couldn't find a tutorial online of something that I wanted to learn, I would teach it myself by just playing around in the software, or teach myself a principle and then post it on YouTube and hope people would watch it. And it sort of snowballed from there.
So have you found that by doing YouTube videos continuously as you are, that you're attracting clients? Because I noticed that almost all of your content is targeted specifically at designers and not clients. So do you get many inquiries as a result of doing your YouTube videos?
All the time, yeah. Most of the people that email me. So it depends what kind of company you're working for. I work for agencies as well as off my own back. I sort of treat my job. I am technically an agency in the sense of when a client comes to me and if they've got multiple needs, it's not just a logo. I hire other people to help out with all the needs, but under my name. So it's the way that people come to me is they normally see a video and they either are starting a new business, or they have a business, or it's a company that has found me online that finds me entertaining or knows my skill set, and they sort of have that element of trust. So they sort of become a client in one way or another, whether that's logo design or hand lettering.
So just to understand, when a client comes to you, quite frequently you're outsourcing that to different people that have a similar style to you. Can I just ask briefly, how are you actually managing that if it's under your name? Are you finding people that do similar work and sourcing it out to them? And then are you the person that's collaborating with a client, just so that I can understand how that works?
Sure. So if it's, for instance, if it depends on the scale of the company. So like if, like at the minute I'm working for like a very large company in America, and it will be going on for the next 2 months, but I'm only working on like a logo concept for them, just one concept to give to them. That kind of client I work for myself. But if let's say I can't really speak about many of my clients because we all make them NDA and stuff like that. But if a client, let's say it was a watch company or something, comes to me and they say, we've got this new idea, I won't just offer them a logo. I'll actually offer them more services. I'll do the logo. But normally the other sides to the branding, sort of like if they wanted animation or web design or brand strategy, I have people in place to give them that. So I'll either get them hired onto the job, the people who are working with it, or I'll just send them to someone that I know that can do it, or I'll just like hire someone for a couple hours or whatever and do that for them.
So are you still the person that coordinates with the client, and you're just collaborating with these different people to complete the tasks?
Sort of, yeah. It always is different. It's not like a set process when it comes to a huge project. Like I don't really talk about it much on my channel because it can become confusing, because I can't give any specifics to a certain like client. I can't really do a case study on it. But for the majority of the time, if they ask me to brand them and come up with an identity for them, I'll be doing that. And if there are any other needs, I will hire someone to come and collaborate with them. But if there's something that I can't do, but I know they need to have, I'll urge them to go to someone else, or I'll get someone else to come to me under my sort of branding banner to design that, or the website or whatever. But I'm the one that talks to the client, yeah.
Nice. That sounds really good. I mean, I'm doing something similar at the moment, but I actually pass it over to someone else who will complete that task and do all the communication and everything. So there's obviously some great, things that we can do as individuals to still grow our business to an agency level.
Sure.
Now, I want to steer back to the YouTube side of things, because I know that that's obviously positioned you as an expert, and it's clearly attracting a lot of people towards you. So the people like myself, and there'd be quite a few people out there, they would have considered to start their own YouTube channel, and they haven't taken action. And in my case, the main reason is because the moment I turn that camera on, I feel nervous and I just don't feel comfortable. If I record anything, I watch it back and I just feel like I look like a retard. So I was wondering, like, what's been your experience with that when you started out? Do you suffer from any kind of anxiety with whilst doing YouTube videos, or do you find it quite easy?
It's a difficult question because I am much different in person. I'm a lot different. I've got a persona which is highly exaggerated. I'm actually really kind of like solemn. I'm very quiet. I'm not much of a talker, but when I can put myself into a mode where I do talk a lot, like on YouTube videos or podcasts or whatever, and it's not a performance, it's more of an engaging tactic, if you get my drift.
Yeah, I do.
But the fear that I had, because I've been doing YouTube videos for such a long time, for me, it's like a few years now, 4 years, I think. I've grown used to a camera. And when I look at the camera, I don't see me. I see, my subscribers. I see like the ones that always watch. And I try and answer those questions that they have. I mean, the only things that that I get self-conscious about or fear when it comes to stuff like that is I pull my beard out, and I can't grow a proper beard. I just let it like grow out. And also like my weight, I also get like, anxious about that. Well, not anxious, more of like a self-consciousness of it on camera. But I sort of like, I sort of strive to push myself to do it. And it's not hard for me now, but at first it was, because you become like natural to the camera. It's sort of like your friend. It's just like another day when you do it. You know, it becomes easier over time. It's like when you first hear your own voice in a recording and you hate it because it sounds weird. And then over time, you won't even notice it's different. You know, it just sounds normal.
I can totally relate with that doing the podcasting, because when I first started doing it, oh dear God, I was so nervous and kept saying it's an uncomfortable thing. So I think podcasting and videos is clearly the same thing. So for me and anyone out there that's listening to this that wants to start a video, based on what Will's just said, it sounds like you just need to start to get comfortable with it.
And that's it. The best tip I can give you is to go in with a mindset of you do not have to post this. The amount of videos that are not posted on my channel, like, it's unreal.
That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, because like when you go in with it, and like that's why I love video, because I'm such a slow guy. I either talk too quickly and it doesn't make sense, or I talk too slow and it's not very concise either then. But like I go in with the mindset of it's a safe environment, because in video software or editing software and post-production, I can edit that. I can get rid of that sort of like silence or me, getting mad at the camera or something, I can get rid of all those. So no matter what happens, I can re-record it and make it decent again, so I can bring it to my standard so I can be comfortable with it.
Mm-hmm. So I know a lot of your videos, I've watched a few of them, and they're quite heavily composited. There's bits of it where it's a video of you, which is like nicely lit, and you might cut to a screen capture of you working on a logo, for example. Could you talk through kind of the process for creating a video like that? Like what tools and what software and so on are you using?
Sure. So I'm actually uploading a video now, but I've literally recorded and edited one now. So the tools that I use for it, I've got these they're called aperture LEDs. So on the side, I've got one that is a key light that bounces off the wall, and another one that's a spotlight with an umbrella that diffuses it. Really cheap lights. I think they're like 60 quid for both of them. They're on C-stands, and the softer the light, the better, especially if you've got glasses, so it kind of stops the reflections. I also have an Audio-Technica something mic that plugs into my computer through an XLR, and that gives me good audio. But I think the main thing is just lighting. Like if you can soften the light, get rid of any harsh light, it can make it a lot easier for the viewer to sort of relax and watch you, and it also gets rid of some of the blemishes.
That's great advice. So what kind of camera and software are you using?
Oh yeah, by the way, the camera is like a bridge camera. It takes 4K video, and I downgrade it. But the software that I use is ScreenFlow. I record my screen on ScreenFlow 3. I also record my audio into Adobe Audition, and then I edit it in Premiere Pro.
Okay, so you're consistently churning out videos, and you have been for years. And obviously creating videos takes a lot of time. And I know that you're also doing client work. How are you structuring your day or your week in order to continuously produce good video content and also do your client work as well?
That's a difficult one. It's with difficulty. I've been thinking about this a lot actually recently over the past couple of weeks. There's a mentality of hustle, and I've said it a few times on different podcasts where I just don't agree with the hustle mentality in the whole sense of if you want to see your dreams happen, you have to work ridiculously hard and give up on, I may be exaggerating, but give up on your life, just base your life around working 24/7. And something that I learned very quickly was that it wasn't the amount of time that I was spending on something, it was the smart time. So I always call it like smart time. Like if I'm using my time correctly, am I, doing things that actually will build my business in the time that I spend? Because I spend about 8 to 10 hours a day working, and then on a weekend I won't work at all. Some days I'll take off. And the time that I fit in, I want to make sure it works correctly. So my day normally structures in the morning. I'll get up, I'll shower, get ready, and then I'll sit at home for a bit looking over my emails. And I use an app called Things3 that organizes my day. And I'll put the to-do list together, check if I've got any meetings at what times, and then I'll hit either an office or I'll go to like a restaurant or a hotel and sit there and do some emails and do any admin stuff. Then I'll normally come up here, I'll think about doing a video of some kind, and I'll start doing client work, do some lettering, and I'll just sort of like bounce between them all day, like doing a bit of client work, a bit of lettering. And then sometimes I might not have done a video, or sometimes I might not have done any lettering, or, it's all about bouncing them around. But I think having multiple things to do during the day, like I always separate them into 3 projects, like lettering, client work, and video. Having those things always leaves me wanting to do one of them. So it's like I don't procrastinate, I just do it. I do one or the other because it's all I sort of do. But structuring my day is kind of, for me, it's easy because I had to learn self-discipline because I've never been employed. I've always worked for myself. I've sort of never had a boss telling me to do something. So mine is based on, I think, a fear of failing. So if I don't do it, then I'm not going to get, to that next step. And it's not always a financial failure. It's more of like a moral failure of like, I'm letting myself down, or there's like thousands of people that want to see a video today, so I have to put one out. So it's hard to work out how I structure my days. It's normally my wife as well. She normally tells me what I should do based on the work that I've got. So I hope that answers it.
Yeah, it does perfectly. I mean, I'm quite happy because we've actually got time to dive into something else with this, because I'm quite curious to talk about your hand lettering, but I didn't think that we'd have time for it. So I think, let's go into that. So with your hand lettering, are you able to talk through like the process that you take from initial client conversation through to the final piece?
Sure. It's very much like the logo design process, but a heck easy. It's so much easier for me.
So do you classify lettering and logos as 2 separate things? They're 2 completely different separate processes for you?
Oh, yeah, like completely. I have to separate my mind because otherwise I'll be working on every letter form, like in a logo, making sure I test each, size, scale, reflectivity and stuff like that. I'll always be checking them. Hand lettering is aesthetic, it's meant for a purpose, but it's also meant to be interesting. So it's like a logo isn't meant, for me anyway, I don't ever create them to be interesting. I create them to work and for people to make money out of them. If it gets interesting, that's great. But the primary purpose of hand lettering is to convey a message to a consumer in nowadays an interesting way that sort of like looks like magic, or in a natural human way that can like sort of convey the company's mission statement or whatever. So whenever I get a client process or a hand lettering commission, it follows the same rules as to like the admin of it. So like obviously contracts, paperworks, NDAs, and then payments and stuff like that. Client brief, depending on what it is, if it's an ad campaign or something, it may change. But it kind of follows the same thing. The only difference being is that I will give them a few concepts. Like with logo design, I don't give concepts. I give one that I know is best. But with hand lettering, I like it to be even more collaborative with the client, whoever they may be.
So you're treating it more like a piece of art.
Yeah. It's very, like, it can be subjective to a sense. Like, it's more subjective than I think a logo design can be. Even though logo design is pretty subjective nowadays. I mean, in the traditional sense of lettering now, a lot of people have a lot to say about it. And
yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think let's talk about these two things separately. So a lettering piece, like obviously once you've got the client and you've got the brief and everything, how do you go about starting that process in terms of actually like working out what that lettering piece is going to look like?
Sure. So I normally panic, and then not really. I mean, sometimes I do. I'll do what comes naturally. So it starts off with writing the word out on my iPad. I always use my iPad for lettering now for client commissions because I can do it anywhere. You don't have to scan it. There's so many more features on it. It's just like using a Cintiq for Photoshop, really.
So are you using an iPad Pro with the Apple Pencil?
Yeah, Apple Pencil. I use Adobe Sketch and Procreate. But so yeah, I write down the word. I'm just doing it as we speak right now so I can remember. So if I had like a concept for something, it would, like, say Merry Christmas, I would just write it down normally and I would see the relationships between the letters, and I would sort of like come up with like maybe 2 or 3 ideas depending on, like, you know, the scale of the project and what it's for. And I'll pick the best one and I would just go for an idea based around the best that I can do subjectively in the actual artsiness of it. From there, I would build around the letter forms. And I would change the sort of like spacings, build around the letter forms. And then once I've done that, I would think about effects, whether it's like, you know, supposed to be clean, whether it's supposed to be, you know, a bit more rugged and torn and stuff. And then I would work out then, this is really like, you know, paraphrasing it. I'm going off the cuff here, but then I would also like check to see if they want any shadows or like they want it scanned in to look, you know, 3D or anything like that. But mostly my lettering is very 2D, very much like it's been there for 20 years and no one's washed it sort of thing. It kind of like that vibe.
So I know that you said with the lettering that you normally present the client like 2 or 3 different options. Are you you know, fully rendering them to, you know, completely finished polished pieces, or are you presenting sketchy type work at that point?
Interesting question, because I probably do it really wrong. I actually do render them sometimes, like a lot of the time, because like I enjoy lettering a lot. It's something that I do for like my job, but it's also part of my daily enjoyment, and it's how I relax when I work on personal Instagram pieces. I kind of sometimes want to finish it to make sure that what I'm coming up with at the end is the best. You know, I don't want them. I want them to see what it could be like.
Yeah, I agree with that. I know there's been a lot of conversation about this. Like some people present, you know, they will show the client sketches, whether that sketches on a piece of paper or sketches in you know, on an iPad, for example. But I don't personally agree that I don't know if you have this experience, but if I show someone a sketch, they can't see what I can see.
Yeah.
You know, like I can see something in, you know, in a rough sketch, but they just see the sketch. You know what I mean?
That's it. Yeah.
I guess you have that exact same problem. Like you don't want to, the client to get the wrong idea based on, you know, a sketch.
That's it. And that sketch is like that idea that you had, even if they said it was great when it was fully rendered and they loved it, they will not say it's great when they've already seen it in the worst light. It's all about perspective of selling the work is in. And with hand lettering, if I have a couple of different ideas and there's like, say if it was an agency, I wouldn't, you know, render it out. I would just like give them a couple ideas because they know themselves that that's just a render. But if it's just like, you know, like a little business or even just a big business with no agent involved, I would tend to make it look as good as possible without spending all my time on it fixing it, So yeah.
So with the lettering pieces, just to get a perspective in comparison to logos, how long do you typically spend on a lettering project?
It depends on the scale or the amount of words. I mean, it's hard for me to tell. For instance, today I've worked on I've been doing a course and everything else, but during my lunch break, I was working on some Merry Christmas ideas. I wanted to do some really nice Instagram pictures for Christmas, and that isn't finished yet. And it took me about an hour, but it's basically finished, and it's just something that I had in my mind. If it's like a branded one for another company, I would spend more time on it because I know that some things that I like that I would have in it, they wouldn't have in it, and they have conditions to it, and they want to have some sort of say in it. It depends really on I think my mood, and also I guess it's hard to explain. You get a feeling of how, when you're fully ready for it and you want to do it, and you're just raring to go because you have the idea in your head already. I think it's easier then than it is when you're sort of coming up with a few ideas, and then you got the pressure of money.
Yeah, I know that.
So it's a hard question to ask, but to answer. But generally, it'll take, for a proper client piece that I normally do, probably on and off, it'll take me a week because I don't work in it all the time, all day.
Yeah. I'm in very much the same boat, because I find when you work for yourself, because you obviously you don't have a boss, kind of whipping you, so to speak. You can there are certain times of the day when you're more productive and better at working at things. So it sounds like you're similar to me, that you don't pick and choose what you want to work on, but you kind of do, and you jump between different things because you got different types of projects to work on.
Yeah, that is cool. Exactly it.
So I want to talk about now. Okay, so lettering, we've spoken about that. So can you talk through how you go about working on a logo project in comparison?
Sure, this one's much easier to to answer. I work on a lot more logo stuff, so I'll obviously all the admin stuff. Then when I'm starting out with the ideas, the first thing that I do is I get my sketchbook out, and I do not use my iPad. I only use paper now. I don't know why. I just like paper and pencil for logo. It just seems a lot easier for me, so I don't get distracted. But I get a little dot grid out, and I'll just start sketching ideas. Any ideas that I've got in my brain, I'll bring out all the good ones first, and I'll see them slowly get worse and worse and worse, and then I know I'm in the right direction because I'm getting worse. And for me, I always see it as kind of at the start, you need to get all your preconceived ideas out of you. It's like sifting through the rubbish to find the good. So I just get them all out, and from there, I will do some research. I'll mood board, and I'll go back to creating some ideas, and then I'll sort of sometimes.
Wait, so you're doing sketchbook work and then research and then mood boards. That's quite an interesting way of doing it, because I know a lot of people they literally they might start with the research, then the mood boards, and then the sketches. What's the reason why you jumped straight in with sketches?
As I said before, it's kind of like getting your ideas out, because you could have an idea for a company and you could be raring to go, and you're like, yeah, I definitely know what I'm going to give these people, but I must go ahead and do some research. No matter how much research you do after, you're still going to do that idea.
Yeah. Okay. So you're just having an initial brain dump, so to speak, of any early ideas.
Yeah.
And then, once you get to a point where you're basically dry of ideas, that's when you start doing the mood boarding and so on to spark new ideas, basically.
That's it. I try and make my work look bad at first, because if it looks bad but it works, then you're on to a winner, because a logo in its worst form should be able to convey a message. So that's the reason why.
I just want to take a short break to thank FreshBooks, who have been kind enough to sponsor this podcast and allow me to make it possible. FreshBooks makes it really easy to create and send invoices to your clients to make sure you get paid. There's no formatting, and you can add your own logo and color scheme too to make sure that your invoices reflect your brand. Another cool feature is that you can actually see when your clients have seen your invoices too, so there's no more guessing. It'll also send automated late payment reminders too, saving you from any of those awkward conversations that no one ever wants to have. It was also recently redesigned from the ground up too, so now it looks absolutely beautiful. It's really easy to use too. So for me as a designer, that's something that matters, and I'm sure it will to you too. If you're listening now and you've not yet tried FreshBooks for yourself, now is the time to do it, because FreshBooks is offering you a free unrestricted 30-day trial. No credit card required. All you need to do is visit freshbooks.com/LogoGeek and be sure to enter LogoGeek in the How Did You Hear About Us section. Now let's get back to that interview. Okay, so you mentioned that you go into mood boarding. What's the next part of that process?
After mood boarding, again, it's just sketching, and I'll sketch for a few days, coming up with different ideas, go for a walk, and I'll sketch, and I'll just have like tons of paper, like sketchbooks with me, and I'll sort of compile them all together, and with a big red pen, so to speak, I'll just like number them or star the ones that I could work with. And then I'll sort of sit and ponder on that logo for a while and see which one I want to vectorize. And I'll vectorize one that I think works best, and I'll test it. And if it doesn't work, I'll vectorize another one, test it, see if it works, and so on.
Do you have any useful methods for kind of narrowing those choices down? Because if you're literally presenting the one, how have you got a clever way of knowing that that final logo that you choose to vector is going to be the perfect choice?
Yeah, I guess like I think it's more to do with is common sense. So like if I'll narrow them down by common sense, and I won't go any deeper than that. So I may have like 50 of like these little tiny sketches, depending on whether it's an icon or like a fully typographic, letter-based logo, which is what I normally work on. So if it's like an icon, I'll have like 50 of these little icons on a page, and a lot of them will look terrible, but I know that there's room to improve or to find the gold inside of there. So the way that I narrow it down is just using my common sense. Like, will this work on social media? Will this work in the sort of applications to which they have expressed in their brief, But generally, I don't like... One thing, I don't trust myself. I don't trust my brain. I don't trust my eyes. So I tend to vectorize them first, and like I'll vectorize the ones that I know can work, and I'll go from there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I understand. I do something similar. So I'm like I do a lot of sketching, and then the best option, I'll literally take a highlighter or a colored pen or whatever I got near me, and I'll circle the ones that work.
Yeah.
And then you can narrow it down from there. And then, it's like you said, it is kind of like common sense. Once you know how a logo should work, that's when, you know that one is the one.
Yeah, totally.
So, and I know that you are presenting the client one option.
Yeah.
Could you talk through what you're actually presenting and how you go about presenting that to make sure that the client is going to agree to that logo? Because I currently present multiple options, but I am considering going to one option. But my concern's always been, what if the client doesn't like that one?
I've got a good answer for this one.
Yeah, can you talk through how you're presenting that one option and how you can ensure that the client is going to agree it?
The first thing is that you cannot ensure that they'll agree with it. It's called the art of selling, but backtrack from there. So when I present a logo, it's generally on black and white at first. So it's depending on the scale of the company, whether they have partners and they have to have board meetings or whatever about it. If I have to do a full-on presentation, I'll go, the whole 10 yards sort of thing. But if it's like not a presentation, I'll come up with like mock-ups and I'll show them the application of the logo. The reason why I only show one is because if I give them multiple options, what I've found is that then they become the designer. They become, and I've just produced something for them. They have hired me and entrusted me to come up with a mark that is the face of their business through my experience and, my eyes, and they have faith in that. And if I give them, in my understanding of what I've done, whenever I've given them multiple options, I've only set them up to fail if they choose the wrong one, the one that I know doesn't work the best. Now, that's not to say, when they've seen it, they want to see another one. And if they want to see another one, I'll give them another one. And I've already got a few to show them, But if I get them to solely focus and buy in on one logo, then that helps them and it helps me come very straight headed towards the goal. And it's not about the easiest way to do it. In fact, a lot of designers, if they did this, they probably would only ever create one logo and not have any sort of lying around for that company, any other ideas that could work just as well. And the problem, I guess, with my way of doing it is that some clients could perceive it, if they were listening to this, as me being lazy, as to not presenting them a logo. But in reality, it's all about making them focus on what actually matters, which is this one mark. What do you like and not like about it, based on nothing else but your preferences right now, not based on another comparison of a logo or anything else. I guess what I'm trying to say is I don't want them comparing. If they compare the logos, then they start becoming a designer. And we all know that, clients do try and design the logo with you. I'm all for collaboration, but there's a cutoff point as to when you say, no, you've hired me for a reason, kind of thing. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. I've actually only really been freelancing just over a year now, working on the logos, and I've adapted my process from one that they used at an agency, and I'm starting to make it my own. And I'm very much finding that even though I might be presenting multiple options, there's always one which is stronger.
Sure.
And thankfully, in most cases, I can convince them that one. But you're totally right that when they do pick the wrong one.
Yeah. But the thing is, what you're doing is good, though, because that means you're good at selling it. That must mean that I'm not, because I don't let them fail. That's why they're paying me a lot to do something, But if you're showing them that one is the best and you're able to actually articulate that to them, I think, because I have a problem with articulation sometimes. I'm not very good at speaking, even though I do speak, if I don't want to set them up to fail, basically.
Yeah, I do the bulk of my conversation actually by email, but sometimes the easiest way to get them to agree is actually with a telephone conversation.
Yeah.
And that's when you can speak about the different options and why, I had one client where you like two of them, and obviously they were both viable options. I wouldn't present different options, and one of them is clearly better. But in my eyes, one of them was stronger, and I was able to explain the reason why, and I was able to get them to buy into that. But you're right, it doesn't always work. Now, I'm wondering, okay, in those situations where the client hasn't liked it,
yeah,
are you just literally presenting them another one? How are you handling those objections? Are you just simply taking out a couple of other options and letting them choose from those? Can you talk through how you handle that?
So if the client doesn't like it, the first thing I do is I make a video for them that's private. I make them, it's like a critique video. It's really weird. I might have to upload one day, but well, I might have to public it. But
yeah, you have to now.
I want to. It's basically me in front of my computer in the exact same setup. I treat it like a video, but a bit more formal. Of me explaining the process, and I'll actually show them what I've done, and as I walk through the process, I can like remember certain milestones in the creation of it. So I'll be like, I put this thing here because of this, or like, it didn't match when it scaled, or I needed to create a variant because it's on like, a black background or something. And this works because of this, and this one doesn't work because of that. That's the second thing I'll do is I will not fight my corner. I'll fight for the logo, because I know that even though it's not finished yet and it's a concept and it still needs to be, finalized and stuff, I know it will work. So what I do is I try and show them my excitement for it and my actual enthusiasm for this one. And if they still don't like it, which does happen, like it does happen, and I don't blame the client for that. They've just like, I've obviously either missed the mark at one point of like understanding the brief and translating it, or they are making a decision or bad decision, So what I'll do is I'll go back to not the drawing board per se, but I'll take one of those other ideas that I have vectorized, and I'll work on that, and I'll try and show them what doesn't work. So the biggest part of my presentations really, when it comes to that stage, is designing what doesn't work. So I spend, from that moment on, I spend probably 90% of the time working for them, designing things that won't work, but that they want to see, and I will prove to them it doesn't work. And sometimes they will want it anyway. And, that's just the way that it goes sometimes. I will always give them the one that I prefer as well. I'll always finalize it and give them the one that I prefer in case they change their mind, because they have hired me for a service, not a product. So, that's, if I've explained that correctly, I hope you understand that.
Yeah, I love it. I really like your video idea, and to some extent, you should probably do that with all clients. Anyway, I'm thinking, because it'd be good to, have the opportunity to run the client through the process, your thought process, and you can kind of get them to buy into the end idea because they followed along with that journey. So I think that's a fantastic idea.
They also can't butt in either, because like they're just listening to
it's
video.
A video, yeah. That's a great idea. Now, I think I want to kind of just talk through how you actually started your career, because I know at the beginning of the conversation you mentioned that you've never worked for a company, you've always worked for yourself.
Yeah,
and you were studying, was it admin?
I was learning how to be a sexy secretary.
A secretary. Okay, so how did you go from learning how to be a secretary to working on logos and lettering and doing YouTube videos? Because that's a huge learning curve. How did that go? How did that happen?
It's a very strange story that I don't think many people know, but people have heard snippets. But basically, I failed all my GCSEs by choice. I wasn't a graphic artist, but I think the obscenities that I drew on my GCSE papers were sort of lining me up for that, like I was not a disruptive student. I was just lost in the education system. I'm dyslexic, ironically, and but I saw words differently. I couldn't read quick. I wasn't very well spoken. I mean, I can do public speaking fine. I don't know why. I do it all the time in my church, but I knew that I wasn't academic. My brother was, my dad is, he was a doctor. My mum wasn't, and I wasn't. So I failed on my GCSEs, and I managed to get accepted into a level 2 course. So I was in college, and from there I went and did business admin, because I had the word business in front of it. But all it was me learning how to look sexy and be a secretary, write reports, and learn business lingo, a bunch of jargon. I basically, it was a good time though. I mean, I did enjoy it. It was something that I could get my teeth into. But when I finished my second year, because that the second year was like a 2-year course in the next level of it. And this is where it gets really strange. Now, I'm a Christian, right? And I have been since I was like 12. My family isn't, no one like I was really friends with were either. And I started like going to like a church when I was very young. When I was 12. And then when I was 17, I was like in my faith, like now I'm a Christian and I believe in Jesus and God and all that. And I remember just like one day asking God why I'm doing what I'm doing and what he wants me to do next, because everyone else is pretty scared because they're like, well, you're not going to get an academic job, are you? You'll probably be on like, nothing wrong with stacking shelves at Tesco's, but, no one wants to spend the rest of their lives doing that. And I remember thinking, what am I going to do? And then for some reason in my mind, God just put, like in my perspective anyway, God just put like this idea of like, why don't you do design? And at that point, I was kind of like, that's mental. I am crazy. Like, because I've never touched Photoshop. I can't draw, and I'm bad at learning. And
so how old was you at that point?
I think I was 17 or 16, turning 17. And I was just like, that's crazy. I'm not going to do it. But then I did do it. I thought about it. And I was like, well, when I come out of college, I'm not going to exactly get a job being a secretary because there is no jobs for that around here. So I just said, I'm gonna trust whether it was God or my gut feeling. I think it was God. And I went ahead and quit college, told my girlfriend, who's now my wife, that I'm doing this. She freaked out. My mum and dad freaked out. My dad was kind of like, just let him get it out of his system. And I sat for 3 years learning. Instead of going to uni, I took out a loan and I sat for 3 years learning. And
so how was you learning? Sorry, was you doing some kind of online course, or did you go to some kind of courses at a local college or something?
No, I just learned on the computer.
Yeah, okay, got it. So you found tutorials online and you started learning and practicing, and that's amazing.
Yeah, I was just reading books. Like I got like a book about grids, and then this passion just started like consuming me of like creativity. It was like a dream come true. I was like, maybe one day I might be able to draw. Maybe one day I can do this. So I started doing that. I created a t-shirt business called Prophecy Apparel, which I still do own, but I don't sell anymore on there. But that didn't really work out because I wanted to do more client work and I wasn't really making money. So even though I was creating YouTube videos and stuff like that, I sort of started to focus on the old school nitty-gritty lettering and calligraphy, and that sort of coincided with everything. So it's an amalgamation of like learning by doing. So like I was literally learning as I was going. I was making fake projects for clients. Like they weren't real clients. I was just creating fake projects. I can't remember exactly what videos I was watching, but I was watching like illustrated tutorials and stuff. And then I'm really good at systems. So I'm really good at working out how software works. So I was just doing that, reading blog posts, looking at other people's work and really dissecting and reverse engineering how designers created things. And I learned in a new way myself. And that sort of like spun out into the tutorials online where, I guess a lot of people might see it as me teaching in a different way, and that's how I became here. It just sort of like everything sort of fell into place. It's a weird story, but yeah.
That's nuts. It's almost like, when you was a young teenager, you were very lost and you didn't really have, a place in the world, so to speak. But the moment you started learning how to do lettering and working on logos, that's when you found your passion.
Yeah, I've always been good at like playing guitar and stuff like that, and things for my hands I can do. Sounds wrong, but I'm all right, doing stuff. And when I started learning calligraphy, it was so calming, and it was something to really put my focus into. And then Instagram and YouTube started taking off, so it's hard for me to explain. If you got my wife on it, she'll probably explain it in like 10 seconds, but
So how did you get your first client then? Because I know you said that you was creating all these fake projects. Was you putting them on a website or something? Like, where did your first client come from? Your first paid client? How did that
this
come
is like
about?
a really cool story. Right, so I've got an awesome neighbor. When I was living with my parents, they were our neighbors across the road. I used to hang out with them when I was younger, and he was like, the neighbor's son was creating or started a painting and decorating business. And for some reason, I don't know how, I think it was my wife, formerly, she was my girlfriend. She was friends with his girlfriend. And
Right.
I mean, he was a nice guy. He's called Ken. And I speak to him every now and then, but he wanted me to design a logo for him for his business. I papped myself. I didn't know. I was like, crap, this is my first logo. And I quoted him 30 quid, like £30, which is probably like how many dollars?
No, I did one that was like £25 when I first started out. So we're in the same boat.
Yeah.
So keep going.
And I literally, I designed a logo and I used like a serif font and I don't know how I did it. It was actually a big project for the first project because it was going on brochures, business cards, and a van. So, and he was my neighbor, so I'd have to like face him every day,
Yeah, it's a big deal.
So I spent like a week coming up with this one thing, and I didn't know what I was doing. Right, that's the time when I realized, this is for me, but it's just so fun learning how to do it. So I basically did it, and oh man, I'm going to have to get you a picture of the logo because it works really well. And I'm not even kidding. I'm not ashamed of it because every time I come out of my office, because his van is parked opposite the road to me, every time
you have to take a picture if it's your first logo and people haven't seen it. We need to. I'll put that in the show notes.
Yes, because like it's so strange and it's such a nice reminder from where I've come from. Because every time I finish work and I go outside, it's parked there. I see it.
Damn, your story is nuts. So you literally started almost pretty much from nothing, not having any qualifications, but you've been able to build up this.
Yeah, and he gave me £40 as well instead of 30.
Oh, nice, brilliant. So that was your first project, and then everything went from there. Like your YouTube following has grown. You got more and more clients. You're at the point where you built an agency and you're collaborating with people.
I think
in a nutshell, you're well known in the industry. Yeah, you're well known in the industry. Like I've known your name for a while. I've seen your videos and stuff. So it's nuts to know.
Yeah.
That you literally came from nothing and you built it up. It's amazing, Will.
I think
you've done an amazing job.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to say as well, like, anyway, as a little encouragement, because thank you for saying that though, Ian, because it's reminded me of something that I've, said to my wife, at that time, I had nothing to lose.
Yeah, you didn't really. You literally had nothing, because a lot of people when they come out of college, they've got some qualifications or something, and if you don't, I don't know, if you come out of school, my immediate feeling is you're probably not going to get a job or you're going to completely struggle. So I think you've done well to get to where you are now, and I'm pretty excited.
Thank you so much
for what the future is. It's awesome.
That's really encouraging, because sometimes it, even as I'm sure you get it as well. People who seem or deemed to be successful by other people, they don't feel that sometimes. They feel like there should be an end to the of like, if I just get there, I've made it or whatever. But then in reality, it's just like there's another mountain to climb, and the molehill that you see is someone else's mountain, and it's like it's a perspective thing, right?
Yeah, it's a really strange thing, because I know I've always had goals of what I wanted to do, and to some degree, a couple of years ago, I actually reached that point.
Yeah.
So, for example, I got a logo in a book, I got an article in a magazine, I was featured on like Creative Block, getting invited to these award things, all this stuff, which you kind of, when you imagine it as a kid, it's like, you can imagine all the people cheering and like, you're standing on a pedestal and it's like, yeah, I made it. Yeah. But the reality of it is you're getting a book, you show everyone and then no one cares anymore because it's like, yeah, well done. There's
yeah, literally.
It's not what you imagine and you just need to keep going. And it's like, the reality of it is that there isn't actually an end. It's just, you just need to keep working towards your goals. And, everything is about the journey, not the final destination, because the destination isn't what you imagine it's going to be.
That is like,
depressing, but yeah, that's the way it is.
It is. It's like you've got more to lose as well, so the pressure's on.
Oh, come on, you're not gonna. I don't think. I wouldn't think like that. If anything goes wrong, it's not going to go drastically wrong. Don't be thinking
YouTube,
that. It's like,
please do not shut off my channel.
yeah, that's the worst thing that can happen is like your channel go. But to be honest, people that are subscribing, they know you. So if your channel did just vanish, just start it back up again. People will carry on watching.
I'll make a website called MeTube or something like that and just directly compete with them.
Yeah, that's a brilliant idea. Now, Will, I know that you got a bright future ahead of you, so it's been a real pleasure to chat with you. So thank you so much for being a guest on the Logo Geek podcast.
No worries, man. It's been great speaking to you.
Yet another fantastic interview. Thank you, Will, so much for being a fantastic guest and for openly sharing your story with us. If you want to learn more about Will, you got to check out his website, and that's at willpaterson.space. And from there, you can check out his work and his YouTube channel too. Show notes for this episode can be found at logogeek.uk/2.4. If you want to chat logo design with myself, Will, and over 3,000 other logo designers, you must join the Logo Geek community on Facebook, and you can find that just by visiting logogeek.uk/community. Now, the group is totally free, but it's very active from designers from around the world, all at different stages of their career. Now, it's a designer-only group, so it's a safe place to share your work in progress. That means that you can share your work, learn from others, and chat with other logo designers just like you. Now, if you've been enjoying the podcast, do subscribe, and if you can write a review, that would be hugely appreciated, because at the moment I have very few and I don't think I've actually got any this season. So if you can do that, it would help so much. So thank you very much if you are able to do that. So guys, thank you so much for listening again. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you next time.